Fuck HIPAA, I'm not even sure my facility is going to exist tomorrow. Disclaimer, the content presented in this video is purely fictional and intended for entertainment purposes.
DisastrousInvolvedI.
First things first, there hasn't been a breakout yet, but I think it's happening tonight. As for the radio silence, we've been on a hardcore lockdown, including an internet and communications blackout that only ended an hour ago and only because of Mary. A consequence of the lockdown is having to stay in your quarters unless you're actively working. This didn't affect Christoph's schedule, but it changed mine. I'm not allowed to go anywhere except inmate sessions, and the sessions can't overrun for any reason. I can't even be in the cafeteria, they're delivering meals to us. It wasn't as annoying as it sounds because administration cancelled all non-urgent sessions until further notice. But today, I had 3 urgent sessions. The first was Larry. The second was Mikey. The third was Notgod More. The only one that didn't worry me was Larry. As you know, I've been burying administration in proposals for Christoph's care. They finally approved one, or rather the first step of one, a meeting between Christoph and Larry, and for all his insistence about choosing to die, Christoph was excited, so was I. Larry is a miracle worker in the true sense, not the horrifying Mary sense. He's a healer. I figured he was our best shot at curing Christoph. Christoph thought so too. He had a defined spring in his step the whole way to Larry's cell. When we arrived, Larry was waiting with his toolbox in hand. His face broke into the biggest, brightest smile when he saw us. The instant I entered his cell, he hugged me. Then he looked at Christoph. Are you her friend? I hope so. Larry extended his hand. Christoph shook it. You have a strong grip. Not as strong as yours. Larry gave Christoph a smile was gentle and utterly radiant, identical to the one he'd given me right before he made the proverbial scales fall away from my heart. Hope swelled in my chest, and then his smile faded. He didn't exactly frown. I don't even know if Larry is capable of frowning. But his expression was worse somehow. Not disappointment. Not despair, anger, disgust, or sadness. Not anything I can even name. But whatever it was, it's a look I hope he never gives me, and as terrible as it is, I was furious at him for looking at Christoph that way. Finally he said, Sir, you already got fixed. You got fixed all the way back when you saw heaven. Why did you break yourself again? The expression on Christoph's face broke my heart. You're not all the way broken, Larry said. You're split into halves. A big one, and a little one. Your big half is broken. I could fix it, but I don't want to because it'll eat your other half. That half is small and hungry, but it's beautiful and it's not broken. I can't fix what isn't broken. I'm sorry. Please do not be sorry, Christoph told him. You fix people, not monsters. It's not that. And I know you think all monsters are bad, but they're not. You're like Nameless, that's all. It's just because the wrong part of you is broken. That's all. And that was that. The transformation of what was honestly my best hope into a dead end. Larry hugged us, Christoph first and longest, me last and tightest, and sent us on our way. I'm sorry, I said, I am not. I am not even surprised. Why? I couldn't quite keep the bite from my voice, because Larry already helped me very much. When? He gave me a smile that eased my own bitter disappointment. The day he helped you. I was supposed to see Mikey next, the Notgod More. But administration abruptly reversed it, saying the interview with Notgod More was emergent and required my immediate attention. Somewhat strangely, I was instructed to debrief with the director immediately following the interview. Charlie came too because they made him, and Christoph came because he didn't want me around Notgod without him. When we entered the cell, Notgod More smiled brightly at us. I mean brightly. His teeth, his eyes, even his skin all seemed to glow. But underneath was something monstrously abyssal. A nothingness I can't even articulate. We took our seats. I'd been part of a trio the last time I interviewed Notgod, too. That time I'd been with Christoph and Raphael. Shitty as it was, I found myself wishing Raphael was there instead of Charlie. As though reading my mind, Notgod More gave me a dazzling smile. The sky is falling, he said. Mark my words, the pieces will crush you. Tell me what you mean, I said. Interview subject, Notgod More. Interview date, February 26, 25. Classification string, non-cooperative/indestructible/agnosto/constant/moderate/demon, presumed but unconfirmed, under review. Interviewers, Rachele B., Christoph W., Charles W. When we last spoke, I said people believe love makes the world go round. But I told you the truth, that is a lie. Desire makes the world go round, and desire has no need of love. You feel that you are loved here. You believe all the monsters and all the gods and all that is in between and beyond have rallied to you because you're so helpful. So compassionate. So special, so loving, but nothing here has need of love, and nothing here has love for you. Not one thing. Not even the wolf. Before you snarl at me again, Mr. Wolf, I ask you, what good is it to be loved by someone who hates that she loves you? And before you snap at me, Doctor, I tell you this, when you destroy innocence for the sake of a monster, you are no savior. You are simply another, weaker monster. To both of you, I say this, no one truly loves a monster, not even other monsters. Gnaw on that in silence while I speak to my red dragon. No one here has love for you, little dragon. No one here even loves your power. They only desire your power. The weakest among them mistake that desire as love for you, the stupidest among them mistake that desire as a wish to be you, the truest among them understand that they desire proximity to your power, nascent as it is. I am one of these. Let me tell you what I am many, I am one splinter of a vast multitude of splinters, divided yet united in one purpose through the eons. I may be the final splinter, or I may not. It does not matter, because I am the splinter you have now, I am a head of the Hydra. One single head. But the only head that matters because I am the one that faces you now, I am the worm in the heart of the world, and I am eating now. Power is what permits me to eat. I serve power because I am served by power, and it is the nature of power to consume until it is consumed by even greater power. The powers here have been eating their prey for far longer than you can imagine. They have been eating slowly because they had no choice. But now they have a choice. Now they want to feast. I am here to help them. We are always here to help them. Now that I have told you what I am, let me tell you what you are. You are a dragon. All dragons are chaos. All dragons are darkness. All dragons have 7 heads and 7 crowns. All dragons are the gods of the birds. The smallest dragons hoard treasure. The truest dragons sweep the stars from the sky. The worst dragons waste themselves on the weak. The strongest dragons break columns. No dragon builds columns because all dragons are breakers who return creation to chaos. All dragons are cast out by angels. All angels desire to cast out dragons. Archangels desire it most. The king of the angels desires it above all things. He will cast you down once you are grown, and when he does, the other angels and their monsters and gods will rejoice, and then they will all eat you. Your wolf will eat first. Wolves love hearts. He slavered over your heart before he knew it was yours because he does not care that is your. It does not matter that it is yours. It is not you that he starves for. It is not love he longs for. It is power, and it is desire. He will not be the only one. He will only be the first. You will be taken apart. You will be peeled and broken. You will be shattered and splintered. You will be consumed, and the ones you love will consume you, your wolf. Your mother. Your father. Your children, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, and your angels and your monsters. It will never occur to them to do anything but consume you because you do not matter to them. They love what you can do for them almost as much as they love what they can take from you. But they do not love you. When all is said and done, they will eat you, little dragon. They have already begun, but if you come with me, you will be the one who eats, and I promise you this, so long as you serve me, you will never be eaten. Do not look at me that way. I speak truly to you when I say we cannot all be creation. Some of us are destruction. Take heart, because destruction is the only thing that always gets to eat. We cannot all be light. Some of us are very dark, and you have always been so dark. Even when you strive for brightness, you devour and destroy it. You always have. You always will. You know this, just as you know you are special, but what you do not know is that you are not special in the way you hoped. Only in the way that you are. The way that you have always been. The way you will always be. The way you must be, the way you can only be. It is everything you are afraid of being. The who of you fears the truth so profoundly that it cripples the glorious what of you. Cast your fear out, little dragon. Although the who of you fails to understand anything, the what of you has always understood the one true law, eat, or be eaten. I've been waiting to eat almost as long as I've been waiting for you, and you have been waiting for me. We are finally here now. It is time you learn to eat. Right as he spoke that little malediction, this evil fucker took my hand in his. They were foul. Too firm but too soft, too damp but too hot, like moldering cushions on a wet and sweltering day. I yanked free and reared back, knocking my chair over. That broke whatever shitty spell he seemed to have cast not just over Christoph and Charlie, but himself too. His glimmering white smile vanished and the mockery of light in his eyes died. Without them, he looked horrifying. A colossal, primeval hunger-given form and stuffed into a decomposing skin suit, he watched, unsmiling and dark, as I ushered Christoph and Charlie out of the room. Once again I thought of an abyss, and slammed the door. I knew immediately that Christoph was upset, and only slightly less immediately that Charlie was too. I also knew why. I wanted to suit them, but was too frustrated with them for falling for what was honestly a pretty shit-tier remix of religious horror tropes. I was also a little resentful that they were both, to use Notgod's word, gnawing on a single sentence of what was otherwise a wide-open threat to my well-being delivered by the most traditionally evil entity in the pantheon. Christoph, I said, I'm going to be really blunt. I don't hate that I love you. Yes, I said I love you. Yes, I mean it. I'll say it again, I love you, and I don't hate it. Charlie, I'd say you're too old for this, but that's not fair since I didn't say it to Christoph. You're not a monster. Not even close. Please believe me instead of Notgod. Neither answered, so I tried again. Look, I'm not saying he's the devil, but he at least thinks he is. Right? And what he was doing in there is just kind of what the devil does, you know. He says things that might be a little bit true, or used to be true, or are true in ways that don't matter because they're still false in spirit. Does that make sense? No, Christoph said, I suddenly wished for Mary. A detailed treatise on the weaponization of truth would have been helpful. Okay, think about it this way. I'm the one who got blasted with all these threats and dire predictions that you guys, yes, you, are going to rip me apart and eat me, and I'm not bothered. So why are you bothered? Because I'm afraid he's right, said Christoph. Well, I just told you he's wrong. So who are you going to believe? I didn't like what I saw in his face. Not one bit. Doubt, shame, fear. And distrust. You have said things very similar to me before. I said things you agreed with, and those things weren't even what he said. And Charlie, don't. Fine. I've got 2 minutes to drop off this travesty of an interview, so bye. I rushed to Eric's office and burst in. Yeah, so, I don't know what you were hoping that crazy shitbag was going to say, but Eric wasn't there, Aurora was. Mikey sat across from her, subdued. He gave me a look that was as distrustful as Christoph's. Where's Eric? I asked. He's indisposed. Sit, please. Anger reared up. Where is Eric? In research and development with Ms. Polly because she is critically unwell. Do that to me again, and there will be trouble. Sit. Aurora had me play Notgod's interview. Incredibly, he was even more insufferable on the recording than in person. Aurora didn't look away from me until the recording ended. Does anything this inmate said concern you? I closed my eyes briefly, feeling insurmountably tired. No, why not? It sounded like he was attempting to threaten and entice you. It sounded like he regurgitated a bunch of shit, pardon my language, purposefully taken out of context and blended with bad theology and various harlequinisms. You're genuinely not concerned. Setting the references to your family and other inmates aside. Are you aware of Christoph's past? I probably know as much as you. Would you like to test me to see if that's true? Mikey kicked me, not enough to hurt but enough to make a point. I apologize, I said. Yes, I'm aware of Christoph's past. I don't believe he's a danger to me. Are you sure? Very. What about the rest? Father, mother, brothers, sisters. Our background investigation indicates that your parents aren't of interest to the agency or its inmates. As far as I know, that's true. What about his references to brother and sisters? I don't have any. I know. Do you suppose the inmate was referencing the Harlequin's habit of referring to you as his daughter? I don't consider the Harlequin my parent any more than I consider Pierrot my brother. My concern is, look, just because someone says something does not mean it's true. I think we all learned that really early on. Mikey kicked me again, a little harder. I would think that's the one thing someone with your capabilities never had to learn. If you want to fit in, and I always did, you learn. You fit in here, like the inmate said. That's not what he said, but yes. I fit in pretty well here. She regarded me for a moment. What did he mean about your power? I assume he means my ability to compel information, given that that's the extent of my power. There's nothing else you can think of? Other than the scales you're all obsessed with, no. She watched me for far too long. I knew she waiting for me to break. It didn't work. Like I've said before, I don't break. I'm the breaker. Finally she asked, are you working with Notgod More in any capacity? No. Are you aware of any plans or intentions of his? No. Another long, piercing look. Then, thank you, she said. I got up gratefully. Sit. I didn't excuse you, Aurora said. You and Michael are going to have an honest conversation while I listen. She slid a list of questions across the desk. Ask these, Rachele. Mikey's eyes were frightened, which actually offended me. For the second time that day. I thought of Mary. Whenever you're ready, Aurora said. I have a very specific tone that comes through when I make people talk. But the tone isn't the compeller. It's just a consequence of the compelling, and I can fake that tone just fine. I shook the paper importantly. Mikey. He tensed up when he heard my tone. Panic flickered in his eyes. What's your relationship to the Harlequin? The tension held for half a beat, then he relaxed. He's the fourth worst jail mate I've ever had. Have you had any communication or contact with the Harlequin of which the agency is not aware? Other than the time he popped out from under my bed to make me look at his signed CD collection. No. Are you colluding with the Harlequin in any manner for any reason? He offered to help me annoy the shit out of Mary, and I was tempted to agree until Mary got turned into an inmate. Does that count? Are you planning to break out of the Pantheon? No. Why would I? You tell me. I can't and I won't because I don't want to. This place is home for me, just like it is for you. Are you planning to facilitate or assist the escape of any inmate from the Pantheon? No, but I really wish I could break my mom out. You guys fucked her over royally and you never stopped. The next question made my heart drop. Why did you tell Christoph to escape agency custody? God, that sucked. He didn't want to leave me. It felt like that scene from Air Bud, only more fucked up. Why did you do it? I repeated, because I've known bad people. Really bad people. People who really, truly enjoy hurting other people. Christoph's not one of them, and I was mad that you, not you, Rachele, but you, Aurora, make him and everyone else believe that he is. I knew that he was telling the truth. There's one more reason, Mikey said. You, not you, Aurora, but you, Rachele, were already on his radar. He could smell you. Did you know that? He always smells people that matter to him before he meets them. He didn't know who you were. He only knew that you were out there. And he was afraid. I didn't want him to be afraid any more than I wanted him to keep living as something he's not, so I made him leave. Of course he came right back, because he's a good boy. They had to recondition him before you got here because he was so afraid. No one told me, I said, they weren't supposed to. Haven't you wondered why you never even heard the name of our most legendary field agent before you accidentally freed the inmate Raphael hates most? No, because Christoph didn't want you to. And what Christoph wants, Christoph gets. Unless it's personal agency, which is actually the only thing he really wants. Right, Aurora? Continue, Rachele. There were 2 more questions. Prior to my incarceration at NASCU, did you ever meet, know, or have any kind of interpersonal relationship with me? No. Prior to your arrival at NASCU, did you ever meet, know, or have any kind of interpersonal relationship with any other inmate? My mom. Thank you, she said. Michael, begin. Stay right there, Rachele, Mikey said. Tell me about the Harlequin. He didn't hold back like I did. His words transcended compulsion into something so fundamental it felt natural. I didn't even have any concept that resistance existed, let alone was an option. I recited the Harlequin's file in great detail until Aurora finally cut me off. Be more specific, Michael. Why is the Harlequin so interested in you? This time, there was no compulsion at all. He's really into my scales. Why? One time he said a scale suit would coordinate really well with his hair, but I think he was lying. Do you have any other ideas? Other than him being a freak, apparently in every sense of the word, no. I just thought it was one of those things he does. Ask her about Notgod More, Aurora said. Stay right there and tell me everything you know about Notgod More. Once again, the compulsion. I regurgitated his inmate file, followed by my personal experiences, including a painstaking description of his hands. And they were so gross. Wet and slimy and hot. Like roadkill in Alabama after a summer thunderstorm, and... Michael, ask again and be more specific. I will not tell you again. Tell me why Notgod More expressed interest in you. I think because he thought it would scare me. Did it? No, why? Because it was lame. Why did he call you a dragon? Why don't you ask him? Or have me ask him? Mikey shook his head almost imperceptibly. If we need to, we will, Aurora said. Michael, continue. Are you planning to violate any agency directives, either alone or in collusion with another inmate? Other than keeping Christoph alive and happy, no. What do you mean? Aurora asked sharply. Stay there and answer her question, Mikey said, the compulsion again, but with an openness that hadn't been there before. Answer. Of course I had to answer. But I didn't have to answer truthfully. I did anyway. I mean, I want him to be happy. And you, Aurora, not you, Mikey, are the main obstacle to that. Mikey glanced at his paper. How did Christoph's meeting with Larry go? Fruitlessly. Why? Larry can't help him. He said Christoph was already fixed back when he saw heaven, and there was nothing he could do. The satisfaction on Aurora's face made my skin crawl. I glanced at Mikey, who gave the smallest, most casual shrug in existence. Thank you both, said Aurora. Return to your quarters immediately and remain there until otherwise instructed. It would be only a slight exaggeration to say that Mikey and I raced each other to the door. We kept pace with each other down the hall and around 2 corners. Finally he said, "Thanks." "Why are you thanking me? Did you really think I'd do anything else? You sound like Mary. And I don't know who to trust here. That's all. What exactly are you up to that has them so scared? You could just make me tell you." "I don't want to. Saving my mom and a few other people." "From what?" "Administration. Your dad is helping." "A beat. So is mine." "Mikey, what's going on?" "I would love to tell you, but I can't. Not because I can't trust you, but because this will make you so goddamned mad, and no offense, but you do such stupid shit when you're mad. Stupid shit works on my family. But not on administration. I wanted to ask so many questions, but didn't." He looked down. "I tried to get Christoph included in this deal, but couldn't. So keep him safe." He went back to his cell. I did too. I opened the door to the sight of the Harlequin sprawled on my bed, clutching a file to his chest. "Where have you been?" I asked. "Out in the great wide world committing miracles and crimes." "Care to share?" "I do not. If I'd wanted you to know, I would have included you like I included dear Michael." "Yeah, so what are you two up to?" "You had your chance to know. I wanted you to know. But knowing requires focus and willpower you simply do not possess at this time." "Okay. Aren't you going to ask why you do not possess the requisite focus and willpower?" "No, your lack of curiosity proves me correct beyond all doubt, then you should feel vindicated. Anyway, yeah, why didn't you include me?" He watched me with expectant malice. "Because you're too busy redemption arcing to do anything else." "Fair." He flopped back down. "Aren't you at all troubled by anything the not God said about him?" "If I start worrying about that, I start worrying about what he told me about you. I'd never hurt you." "Well, that's not entirely true. I would under the right circumstances, or even the wrong ones, but I can't. I've already told you, you're a child I can't hurt." "I'm so very sorry." "Don't be. It's much more interesting this way, and probably less painful." "I don't get you." "I don't care. Here." He tossed the file at me. "Read." On December 11, 2026, Waldo County Emergency Services were dispatched to the public beach in Stockton Springs following a report of a badly injured woman. Responders located an unresponsive woman and immediately noted that approximately 40% of her skin was badly damaged. Their initial assumption was third-degree burns. Closer inspection revealed that an additional 30% of her skin was covered in scales. They transported the victim to the nearest hospital. Midway through the ride, they managed to resuscitate her. She came to in a state of total panic. She was remarkably strong and exhibited significant fear and hostility to the responders, who managed to sedate her by administering 3 times the normal dose indicated by her height and weight. During this process, the paramedic noted that he was not able to pierce her damaged or scaled skin. By the time they reached the hospital, the victim was awake and fighting again. Providers administered more sedative. Even so, they had enormous difficulty getting her into a bed and restraining her. The restraints lasted approximately 10 minutes, at which point she caused a particularly chaotic scene before fleeing the hospital. The commotion caused by the woman's appearance and highly erratic behavior combined with her relatively close proximity to NASCU quickly alerted the agency of Helping Hands to her presence. Based on the description, the organization quickly determined that the female was former V-Class agent Rachele B., who had absconded approximately 8 months prior with a special research subject assigned to the agency's Research and Development Unit. As of this writing, that subject remains at large. Its recontainment is a critical priority for the agency. A-Class agent Michael W. and his T-Class partner Christoph W. located Rachele and brought her back into custody without major incident. Upon her arrival at NASCU, it was determined that Rachele B. had suffered extensive internal injuries and was going into shock. Once her condition stabilized, Michael W. extracted the following information. Shortly after fleeing NASCU, Rachele crossed into Parallel 3 with the research subject in pursuit of inmate 9, Ward 1, son of Hadron, and his child Jackson T. Prior to this, agency had no knowledge that Rachele was capable of such. The only inmates known to travel between parallels with varying degrees of success are inmate 23, Ward 1, the Notwitch, inmate 17, Ward 1, the Harlequin, inmate 9, son of Hadron, and inmate 377, Ward 3, Mephilos. When asked how long she had had this ability, Rachele stated that inmate 17 disclosed it to her in late 2024 or early 2025. Following the mass containment failure of February 2025, during which her scales spontaneously manifested for the first time in her adult life, Rachele admitted to testing her capabilities with regards to traveling along parallels and repairing columns with the assistance of inmate 23, Ward 1. The Notwitch. However, she reports that these experiences were little more than guided tours. She reports no action was taken, and in fact inmate 23 refused to allow her to do anything other than survey. after the severe injuries he sustained during the 2025 containment failure. T-Class Agent Christoph W. also suffered substantial personality changes over the course of his recovery that severely compromised their relationship. Rachele utilized her ability to travel across the parallels as a self-soothing mechanism to cope with the emotional difficulties posed by his change. It should be noted that the agency was not aware of her activities at any point upon reincarceration. Rachele quickly re-established her relationship with Christoph W., whose feelings vacillated heavily between revulsion and profound attachment. These emotions interfered heavily with both his productivity and the efficacy of his reconditioning protocol. It should be noted that his revulsion was partially rooted in agency-sanctioned actions. For full details, please review Addendum 1. After multiple reconditioning failures, staff designed alternate protocols for Christoph W., utilizing Rachele in a manner similar to those used in the months preceding her disappearance. Unfortunately, the new protocol resulted in Christoph's critical performance failure. Administration then removed Rachele from the process entirely. RD staff changed the protocol to one resembling the protocols that predated Rachele's arrival. Christoph refused to participate in the new protocol. However, administration was prepared for such a development given Christoph's extensive record of failures. They ordered the preparation of a medication regimen designed to neutralize Christoph's inhibitions. P-Class Agent Dr. Cortland administered the medication. It should be noted that the medication was administered against the wishes of Dr. Wingeride. Rachele promptly escaped her cell through unknown means and interfered with the protocol by throwing herself in between Christoph and his subject. It must be noted that prior to her appearance, errors as well as misjudgments occurred in this specific instance of the reconditioning protocol. For a detailed analysis of these errors and the interplay between them and Rachele's history with Christoph, please see Addendum 2. Although Rachele sustained serious injuries, she successfully derailed the protocol. Her injuries, including 2 broken ribs, a fractured hip, and a crushed ulna, initially went undetected due to the pain-neutralizing properties of her scales, although the scales themselves exhibited no damage. It is the agency's theory that Christoph's presence neutralized their protective properties in some way, resulting in internal injuries, due to these and the other complications Rachele experienced, which occurred primarily due to errors during Christoph W.'s reconditioning protocol. She was transferred to the Research and Development Unit for intensive evaluation on the properties of her scales. These evaluations included various tests and experiments geared toward strengthening the field defenses of agency personnel. Administration also hoped that the research would result in defense solutions that the agency could later market to the armed forces. Once the strength of the scales was confirmed, Rachele's regrowth capabilities were vigorously tested. Due to her historical difficulties and inconvenient specificities regarding regrowth, research and development staff devised a regrowth protocol consisting of administration of psychoactive compounds and carefully supervised exposure to inmate 67, Ward 2, the Dragonfly, followed by the scale harvest protocol. In order to facilitate psychological recovery, staff implemented an aftercare regimen utilizing the assistance of Christoph W. This specific protocol resulted in over 90% success rate of full regrowth within 24 hours. It must be noted that despite the agency's best efforts not only to facilitate efficiency, but to spare Rachele unnecessary pain whenever possible, it was quickly determined that cloning or replicating the scales by other means is not possible. They must be removed directly from Rachele in order to be effective. Because of the remarkable success of the research and subsequent harvesting protocols, agency staff are now heavily protected in the field due to garments that consist of these scales. The agency also benefits from the significant income source stemming from sales of these garments to high-profile public figures and security firms, while the success and benefits for the agency cannot be overstated. Nor can the impact these protocols had on Rachele be. It must be noted that the circumstances were exceptionally painful and demonstrably traumatic to her physically, mentally, and psychologically. The agency extends its deepest sympathies and regrets regarding her suffering. Given her good to excellent rapport up until that point with inmates and staff alike, it is unsurprising that some individuals eventually took action to stop her suffering. To that end, P-Class Agent Dr. Cortland, at the time assigned to the Research and Development Unit, successfully facilitated her relocation outside the Pantheon along with the missing research subject. Rachele remained missing for nearly 7 months. While her success was a mystery at the time, the agency now knows she evaded detection by traveling along the parallels. Once recaptured and rehabilitated from her extensive injuries, it became clear that Rachele's experiences had changed her substantially. It has long been suspected that long-term exposure to the mysterious environment between parallels incites extraordinary changes. For example, while the agency had no concrete proof until Rachele's recapture, it believed the extraordinary abilities and overall nature of inmate 377, Ward 3, Mephilos, are due to such an exposure. Based on the contents of their interviews, administration suspect that both inmate 27, Ward 1, Mr. Helping Hands, and T-Class Agent Christoph W. experienced brief and highly limited exposure to this interparallel environment immediately prior to their respective chthonic transformations. Some officials also believe the Knot Witch and the Harlequin are casualties of exposure to this environment, although that is unconfirmed. The director notes it is much more likely that they simply exploit this environment to their benefit. In any case, it cannot be denied that extensive long-term exposure to this environment instigated catastrophic changes in Rachele. Shortly after personnel came to this conclusion, it became clear that Rachele had either intentionally planned a return to the Pantheon or simply taken advantage of her reincarceration to engineer a second and much more devastating containment failure. Had it not been for Christophe W.'s exquisitely attuned perception abilities, she almost certainly would have succeeded. The instant he perceived deception, he alerted director Eric W. Thanks to Christophe W.'s swift and decisive action, the containment breach was averted. Once satisfied that breach would not occur, administration forced Rachele to sit with A-class agent Michael W. and Dr. Wingeride for a formal interrogation. Christophe W. also attended for multiple reasons, including security, an extra layer of deception sensitivity, and most importantly, to provide protection in the event Rachele attacked. It must be noted that Christophe W. remains the only individual known to unfailingly neutralize Rachele's scales. Initially, both Dr. Wingeride and Michael W. believed that Rachele responded honestly throughout her interview. Dr. Wingeride in particular was excited about the information she disclosed, to the point where he promised to reduce the frequency of scale harvests and even to secure an end date to the protocols. Near the end of the interview, however, it became clear that Rachele had been entirely deceptive when she stated that inmate 17, Ward 1, the Harlequin, had no part in her return to the Pantheon when he crawled out from under the desk via unknown means. At the moment of disclosure, Rachele asked Michael why he cut off his wings. Her meaning is not currently known, nor is inmate 17's reply, because he never wanted them to begin with. Any more than the wolf wanted to die. At this point, inmate 17, incapacitated drive Wingeride and Michael. As of this writing, Dr. Wingeride remains in serious condition with a low chance of full recovery. Inmate 17 and Rachele then freed inmate 27, Ward 1, Mr. Helping Hands, resulting in critical containment failure. Upon waking, inmate 27 immediately removed his infamous clown mask. According to witnesses, inmate 17 covered his eyes. Rachele, however, did not. If accurate, this means Rachele is the only person known to have viewed the face of inmate 27, Ward 1, Mr. Helping Hands, without experiencing negative effects. According to witnesses, inmate 27 castigated Rachele for failing. What he meant by this is not known. He then told her to take her father and go back to where they belong, at which point inmate 17 rose to her defense in dramatic fashion. Rachele escaped, leaving inmate 17 behind. For various reasons, this incident left witnesses certain that Rachele is related to the Harlequin. This prompted extensive research that culminated in an interrogation of Rachele's mother. It must be noted that the interrogation was definitive. It then became clear that Rachele is inmate 17's biological offspring, partially explaining the bizarre level of regard in which he holds her. For full details of the interactions between Rachele, the Harlequin, and Mr. Helping Hands, as well as a comprehensive list of associated research and theories, please review Addendum 3. Within 2 hours of Rachele's successful escape, inmate 15, Ward 1, Pierrot, inmate 8, Ward 1, Pantomime, inmate 22, Ward 1, Lifeblood, inmate 85, Ward 2, La Signora, and inmate 17, Ward 1, the Harlequin, also vanished from their cells. It must be noted that for the first time since his initial incarceration at AHH Nascu, the Harlequin's infamous human skin cloak vanished with him. Following this containment breach, security protocols changed to include the extensive assistance of inmate 10, Ward 1, Serial, in exchange for fulfilling inmate 10's specific behavioral needs. The agency believed these changes to be successful until the abduction of Christophe W. Approximately 7 weeks later. It should be noted that Rachele, the Harlequin, Pierrot, Pantomime, Lifeblood, La Signora, and Christophe W. remain missing. The agency believes that Rachele is in active collaboration with the Harlequin. Their goals are not known, but it must be assumed that their goals are wholly opposed to agency directives. Rachele's recontainment is currently the agency's highest priority, even above the recapture of the 2025 containment breach escapees and the destruction of inmate 326, Ward 2, Angel of Light. Goddamn, I said. So how true is this one? If you keep redemption arcing, it will all be true in much worse ways much faster than this file indicates. But if you stop redemption arcing, none of it will be true. How do you know? When you stop redemption arcing, I'll tell you. Will you stop saying that? I'll stop saying redemption arcing when you stop redemption arcing. Keep the file. Discuss it with your bad dog if you must, but please understand I'm this close to disowning you over him. You are not. Keep that up, and I will be. And a bit of fatherly advice, keep your bad dog on the shortest leash you can think of until morning. I and my son and his son are going to be very busy tonight, and I'd rather you not get caught in the crossfire. What the hell does that mean? You'll know tomorrow. And darling girl, share that with administration, and I will put your bad dog down in the very worst way. Before I could say another word, he crawled under the bed
Until
and vanished.
next time,
So I've been sitting here ever
subscribe to
since,
stay up to
waiting for
date with
Christoph
all
and freaking
updates.
out because one
No
way or
screamers
another,
or shocking
something ends
moments,
tonight, and
only
I don't know what
comfort
to do
and
except
safety.
wait. Please
Bye.
wait.